I was wrong. I'm just gonna start the video strong and say I was wrong, specifically about zoom lenses. And honestly, I've been kind of like a hater of zoom lenses for years and years. But in the past couple of years, I've definitely had a change of heart. I want to give some context though. I want to talk about my experience using prime lenses and then also now my newer experiences of using zoom lenses. So I've been a wedding photographer for nearly 8 years now. And although I do a lot more work outside of weddings at the moment, I really got into using prime lenses because of weddings. So some of the focal lengths that I've owned over the years are the 24, 35, 50, 85, and 135, and arguably like the perfect kit. I would be able to capture any wedding with that array of prime lenses. But I use prime lenses for a few different reasons. One was because the apertures open up much wider, especially for the premium glass. I was shooting on L glass for Canon, and with a lot of that glass, I can open up the apertures as wide open as 1.2 or 1.4. So some of the benefits of that are that you can create more of that bokeh or that background blur from your subject and the background. And then it's better for low light. So because you're letting more light literally into that lens, you're gonna have better image quality with shooting in darker situations. So those are some of the strong reasons why I invested in primes. Some of the other benefits are their size. Historically, they've been smaller than zoom lenses, and to have smaller lenses is great for portability. And I've heard this argument a lot with the benefit of prime lenses being that it forces you to move your feet. I do think that's true, especially for maybe newer photographers and videographers, because it helped me learn composition. I was forced to not rely on the lens on my camera body, but to really move my feet and understand how to better compose my subjects. But over the years, as you gain more experience, I find that that's less of a strong argument. And now I can see it almost being a disadvantage. So those are some of the advantages of using primes and why I personally was shooting on primes for so long. But I want to talk about some of the cons too. One of the biggest cons is that those prime lenses are fixed at a certain focal length. So whatever lens you have on your body, whether it's a 35 or 50, you're stuck at that focal length. You can't punch in, you can't punch out. But with prime lenses, the only way that you're going to be able to compose differently is to move your feet. I find that when you're in a situation like a concert or a sporting event or even weddings like myself, a lot of times you can't be right up in the action, which means that you're gonna be further back and you need lenses that have more reach. And although prime lenses are great, and there are prime lenses that are like 135 or 300, unless you have that on your camera body the entire time, you're kind of stuck at that focal length. So even if something's happening closer up, all of a sudden you're kind of in a situation where you have to have a second body with a wider lens, or you just can't capture what's happening in front of you. That kind of plays into the other disadvantage on a wedding day, especially where you do need two camera bodies. And if you're locked into shooting prime lenses, then you kind of need two camera bodies to really be able to cover an array of things that are happening in front of you. So that's some of the history of my experience using prime lenses. At the moment, I only own one prime lens. It's a 50mm. It's incredible. It's actually the lens that I'm using right now to make this video. The rest of my lenses are all zoom. And I want to talk about some of the advantages and the disadvantages of zoom lenses as well, and then give you some additional perspective from a couple other people as to why they use zoom lenses. All right, so let's talk about some of the pros of zoom lenses. And the biggest one being that you can cover a range of focal lengths. Whether it's a subject that's close up or further away, all you have to do is kind of just twist your hand and you can cover those different things happening in front of you. That's the strongest advantage with the zoom lens. I think the other thing too is prior to moving to zoom lenses, I had to carry an array of lenses. With one zoom lens, like a 24-70, I can cover a range of focal lengths that my primes used to cover. And instead of bringing 3 lenses on a shoot, I can just bring 1. I think those are some of the strong advantages of zoom lenses. I will say too, people used to say that prime lenses are sharper. I don't know if that's true anymore. With the zoom lenses that I've purchased, the RF glass for Canon, for my R5 that I'm filming on right now, they're incredible, like almost too sharp. And so I think that with new age glass, technology has changed drastically in recent years. And just the capability, the speed, the sharpness of these zoom lenses, even like the color rendition is incredible. It's the reason why I have moved from prime to zoom lenses. I think it's only fair to talk about some of the disadvantages too. The biggest one is that with all of my zoom lenses, and I think this is the same for most high quality zoom lenses, the widest aperture they can go to is 2.8. So I think for some people that's a big turn off, because if you want to shoot at a wider aperture, again, for more of that low light capability and for more of that background blur, it's difficult to get that with the 2.8 lens. That is a disadvantage, but to me, I don't really shoot that wide anymore, especially because I think one of the things that's mitigated that argument of the low light performance with prime lenses is that the camera sensors have gotten much better. Honestly, I think that's the only con. I can't find any con with zoom lenses. I guess the other is price tag. Zoom lenses can get pretty expensive, but I think with any new lens now, prime or zoom, they're getting pretty expensive. As far as the lenses that I use, I have an EF 16-35 right here that I still use quite a bit, but eventually I will get the 15-35 RF that Eric has. This is actually his lens right here. And then on this side, I've got my 24-70 and then my 70-200. So with those three zoom lenses and then my one prime to 50, I feel confident that I can cover any event. I can photograph any subject.
My audio is this one.
Oh, perfect. This is so much better.
Ah, nice. I have a mic now.
Yes, you do have a mic.
Yes.
Can you just kind of share, because you've also used prime lenses for a majority of your career as well.
Yes, I have.
But share why you're looking to incorporate more zoom lenses into your photography workflow.
Yes, a couple of reasons. Primarily, the versatility that zoom lenses offer in conjunction with how much I travel these days for work. It is really attractive to have as much versatility in a camera kit with as few lenses as possible, because traveling is really exhausting, and being able to pack 3 lenses that can cover every focal range that you need instead of 7 lenses not only makes the travel experience nicer and less heavy, but it's also just less things that you have to worry about. So primarily it's the versatility in relation to travel. And also with that, I think the biggest trade-off that a lot of people think of when they think of zoom lenses is the lack of a really shallow aperture. So something like 1.2 isn't available on the RF 70-200, but it is available on the RF 50, which is my favorite lens of all time. And it's a bummer to not have 1.2, but also for the style of work that I'm doing and doing with Gene, also more commercial photography and product photography and things of that nature typically don't require 1.2. In fact, it actually is better to shoot deeper depths of fields because you want to see everything and you want all of it to be in focus. You don't need that kind of extremely pinpoint shallow fall off in the background. So it's actually just a better habit to shoot deeper in those circumstances. So
I would argue that both Steven and I, our current favorite zoom lens is actually this guy, the 24-70. And Steven will actually be making a video very soon and posting this. Honestly, when you see this video, you're going to see this video as well. So I'll link it below. But do you want to talk about why you are even making a video on this specific lens? Yeah, so I started renting the RF 70-200 almost a year ago now. I rented it for a lot of projects at this point, and the first time I rented it, kind of quickly fell in love with it and was, I think, kind of awakened to the reason why so many people call it such a beloved focal length and lens, because it is just truly a phenomenally, it's just an incredibly versatile lens to have. Like having all of those ranges in one lens, having it all at 2.8 is fantastic. I don't really ever shoot telephoto that much, so having the compression of shooting at 200 is really cool and kind of a new creative tool to have. And I love it. I just love it. It's just such a fantastic lens, and I cover a lot of that in my review of it.
It just does everything well.
That 7200 is insane.
It packs so much value.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
It is. It's super expensive.
It is.
Like there's no getting around that, but
Just go watch Steven's video to have a better understanding of why we're speaking so highly on this lens. It's the best lens, arguably, that I've ever owned. And you're going to see why in his video why he loves it so much as well. Thank you so much.
thank you, Keen.
Thank you, Steven. Okay, bye. Can you share why you use zoom lenses for video, what the advantages are, and why you use them?
I didn't for a long time. I just kind of stuck with the prime lens attitude I had with photography for a long time, because my whole concept with prime lenses was it's going to force me to be more creative. It's going to force me to move my body, make compositions that look good, as opposed to quote unquote being lazy with the zoom lens.
Yep.
And then I, over the years, realized like how important it is to actually catch moments more than the composition.
Yeah.
So in my line of work, when it's weddings and documentary, I care more about getting the shot than making the shot look perfect.
Chromatic aberration is much better now.
Yes.
Color rendition is so much better now as well.
Yes.
And then speed. So even if it's locked in at 2.8 at the widest aperture, the lenses, because of the technology, it's faster than old lenses too. So from both photo and video, there's so many pros to now using zoom lenses versus primes, where the primes mitigated some of those disadvantages, but those disadvantages aren't really disadvantages anymore either.
But everything from what I've seen, everything in the photo and video world is cyclical.
Yeah.
So it feels like 5 years from now, we're going to be wanting to go back to primes.
Makes sense.
Or there's going to be a new kind of lens that does something different that everyone's going to be like, oh, I want to do that one now.
Yeah, makes sense.
But it's utility more than anything for me.
Same. Because your point too about forcing yourself to move your feet for better compositions, I think that's also great for starting photographers, videographers to understand composition. But when you get better at that, a lot of times to have a zoom lens is advantageous if you understand composition already, but to capture moments like you're saying.
You have more options for
100%.
Yeah. And because, when you're early on, you're like, oh, rule of thirds has to be there. You're like, well, I don't have to use rule of thirds on this shot. I could balance it this way.
Yeah.
And then you have a handful of shots you could use with the zoom lens. It's not forcing you to do that one you always do. We're twinning today too. You were twinning with Steven too.
We were.
We're all wearing black today.
It's coordinated. It was on purpose.
I just interviewed people on the street asking them how much videographers make.
Will that go live this week?
Yeah, tomorrow, Thursday.
Great. So if you're watching this video, you're going to see Eric's latest video link below. Please check it out because he's making some content that's not only resourceful, but very entertaining as well. So you'll find that video link below. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hope you have a better understanding as to why I was wrong about zoom lenses and why I no longer have such a narrow perspective on the capability of them in comparison to prime lenses. All those lenses that we've mentioned are incredible tools. Just in my workflow with where my work is taking me, I'm finding that zoom lenses just have more advantages to me right now in this moment than prime lenses do. So that's really it. Go check out Steven and Eric's videos, link below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you. Bye. 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 Bye.